Hello, my friends. Welcome to another amazing read. Go grab your stuffy. How have you been? I have missed you so much. I have a book today for us. It's called Separate is Never Equal, and it's written by Duncan Tonatiuh. The story is about Sylvia Mendez and her family's fight for desegregation, and this book won an award, the Pura Belpre Award. Let's get into this read. Sylvia had on her black shoes. They were shiny new. Her hair was perfectly parted into long trenzas. It was her first day at the Westminster School. The halls were crowded with students. She was looking for her locker when a young white boy pointed at her and yelled, "Go back to the Mexican school! You don't belong here!" Wow, that's not nice. For the rest of the day, Sylvia did not speak or introduce herself in her classes. She kept her head down when walking in the halls. When she got home that afternoon, she told her mom, Felicitas, what had happened. "I don't want to go to that school anymore. The kids are mean, Mama." "Don't you know that is why we fought?" said Mama. 3 years earlier, in the summer of 1944, Sylvia and her brothers Jerome and Gonzalo Jr. and their parents had moved from the crowded city of Santa Ana, California, to a farm in nearby Westminster. Her father, Gonzalo Mendez, had labored for years as a field worker, picking grapes and oranges. Now he was leasing a farm. He was going to be the boss. On their new farm, they were going to grow asparagus, chilies, and tomatoes. As the summer came to an end and the first day of school neared, Aunt Soledad drove Sylvia and her brothers and their cousins Alice and Virginia to the local public school on 17th Street so they could enroll. Sylvia was going to enter third grade. Gonzalo was going to enter second, and Jerome first. "What a handsome building," thought Sylvia as they pulled into the parking lot. Tall trees lined the street in front of the school. There was a playground with monkey bars and a red swing. When they walked into the school, they noticed that the hallways were spacious and clean. "I'm here to enroll the children in school," said Aunt Soledad when they arrived at the principal's office. The secretary gave Aunt Soledad 2 enrollment forms, one for Alice and one for Virginia, but she did not give her enrollment forms for Sylvia and her brothers. "They cannot attend this school. They must go to the Mexican school," said the secretary. "Why do I have to go to the Mexican school?" Sylvia wondered. She was not Mexican. She was American. She spoke perfect English. Her father was from Mexico, but he had become a U.S. citizen. Her mother was from Puerto Rico, which was a U.S. territory, and Soledad was upset. "But we all live in this part of town," and Soledad said. Sylvia looked at her cousins. They had light skin and long urban hair, and their last name was Viduri. Their father was Mexican, but of French descent. Then she looked at her brothers and at her own hands and bare arms. She wondered, is it because we have brown skin and thick black hair and our last name is Mendez? Could that be the reason? What do you think, my friends? Rules are rules. The Mendez children have to go to the Mexican school," said the secretary. "I will not be enrolling any of them here then," Aunt Soledad said, and she stormed out of the office, taking Sylvia and the other children with her. Good for her. When they arrived home, Aunt Soledad told Sylvia's father what had happened. Mr. Mendez told her not to worry. had to be a mistake. He would take care of it. He was a businessman and he was used to dealing with people. Next day, Mr. Mendez met with Mr. Harris, the superintendent of the Westminster School. Mr. Mendez explained that his family had just moved to the nearby farm. The public school on 17th Street is the closest to our house and my children should attend it.
Your children have to go to the Mexican school,
said Mr. Harris. But why? Asked Mr. Mendez. He was not given an answer other than, that is how it is done. In the following days, Mr. Mendez met with Mr. Atkinson, the county superintendent, Mr. Harris's superior, and then with the school board, which oversaw all of the schools in Orange County. But they all said the same thing.
Your children have to go to the Mexican school.
But why? Mr. Mendez kept asking. Why? Yeah, we're asking too. Why? No one would give him a satisfactory answer. That fall, Sylvia and her brothers had to attend Hoover Elementary, better known as the Mexican School, on Olive Street in the city of Westminster. The building was a clapboard shack, and the halls were not spacious or clean. A cow pasture surrounded the school. The students had to eat their lunch outside, and flies would land on their food. Ew. There was an electric wire that surrounded the pasture to keep the cows away. There was an electric wire that surrounded the pasture to keep the cows in. If you touched it, you received a shock. The school did not have a playground, not even a swing. The Mendez family did not give up. Time and time again, Sylvia heard her father talk with co-workers, friends, and other parents. It's not fair that our kids have to go to an inferior school. It's not only the building that's a problem. The teachers at the school don't care about our children's educations. They expect them to drop out by the 8th grade. How will our children succeed and become doctors, lawyers, or teachers? He said. Mr. Mendez created a group called the Parents Association of Mexican American Children. He tried to collect signatures for a petition to integrate schools so that all children, regardless of their skin color or background, could have the same opportunities. But every time he asked someone to sign the petition, he would get the same answer. No queremos problemas. We don't want any problems. Many of the parents worked on farms owned by white families and feared they would lose their jobs if they supported the petition. One day, a truck driver overheard Mr. Mendez trying to convince a worker to sign his petition.
You know, you could file a lawsuit,
said the truck driver. The truck driver told Mr. Mendez about a lawyer named David Marcus who had filed a lawsuit on behalf of the people of San Bernardino and had helped them integrate the public pools there. At that time, not only were schools segregated, but also other public places as well, such as pools, parks, and movie theaters. Some businesses even had signs that read, "No dogs or Mexicans allowed." Whoa, that's not nice. Mr. Mendez decided right then and there to hire Mr. Marcus, even if it means having to spend all of his savings to do so. Over the next few months, Mr. Mendez and Mr. Marcus traveled all over Orange County looking for people who had experienced similar problems. Sylvia watched her father leave early in the morning. Sometimes she saw him come home in the evening, but often she only heard his footsteps when he got in late at night. While he was away, Sylvia's mother had to take care of the farm. Mrs. Mendez would get Sylvia and her brothers ready for school, and then she would go out to the fields. She started the irrigation system, drove the tractor, oversaw the workers, and solved any problems that arose. With the help of Mr. Mendez found and talked with other families who were dealing with segregation. One of them was the Estrada family. Mr. Estrada had fought in World War II. He had risked his life next to Americans of all races and backgrounds, but when he returned to America from the war, he found out that his children were not allowed to attend school with white children. Wow, it's an injustice, said Mr. Mendez. Es una injusticia, said Mr. Mendez. It's an injustice. The Estrada family joined the Mendez case, and so did 3 more families. The families were from the different school districts in Orange County: Westminster, where Sylvia lived, Garden Grove, El Modena, and Santa Ana. Mr. Marcus wanted to show that the segregation of students affected not only Sylvia and her brothers, but more than 5,000 children in the public school systems all over Orange County.
This is the end of part 1 of this read. Join me next time when we finish the book together. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. Remember who's amazing? You, my friends. You are amazing.